Hi, my name is Deborah Engelmajer and I'm a handmade business expert based in Australia. I started my career in big corporates and e-commerce, then specialized as an online marketing and business consultant in the handmade industry, which I've been lucky to work in for over 7 years now. In that time, I founded Decor and the HQ community and helped over 3,000 makers start and grow the handmade shop successfully via our programs. Today, I'm excited to talk to you about design trends. As a handmade business owner, you are a creative, a designer, and you probably have a personal style that makes all your products and your brand in general cohesive. This short course will show you how to keep on top of trends and research them efficiently using easily accessible tools and websites so you can decide which trends to leverage because they work for your brand and your style and which ones to ignore. Let's dive in. I remember a few years back, black and white Christmas were trending as well. So there really is more than just, for example, green and red. And so these are the design trends that we want to look at when we enter those seasonal trends and to keep in mind so that we can develop products around those as well. There are 5 types of trends that you need to pay attention to, and we're going to dive into each one of them in more details. But as a summary, these are colors and color palettes, patterns, textures and materials, themes and characters. So when it comes to colors and color palette, this is probably what we all have in mind when we think about trends. That's the first thing that we consider because we are used to hearing things like, is blue trending? Is burnt orange trending? Is bright yellow trending? And color trends change every year and to a degree also every season. So that's something that's really important to keep in mind, especially if you release seasonal collections, because it's important to know what the color of the seasons are going to be. I'm sure you've heard before things like the color of the season or the color of this summer is turquoise, the color of the fall is burgundy, and these change every year. Now, more than just the color themselves, there's also more general trends around the color palette. So some years you will see more muted colors than others that seem to be using more bright and intense color tones. Some years we'll see a lot of natural and neutral colors that tend to look more like organic colors. We have years as well where pastels and softer tones seem to be the preference of the market. So these are general color trends that we need to know about as well. And I'll show you how to research those in a few minutes. Now, when it comes to patterns, patterns are as important as colors and they can be used in many different ways. They can be used in prints, in illustrations, on your fabrics, and so much more. So you need to know what patterns are in, what patterns are trending. Are polka dots trending? Are stripes trending? Florals trending, geometric patterns. I remember a year not so long ago where we seem to see galaxies pattern everywhere. So really these are going to change again depending on the year, depending on the season. And beyond just the actual design on the patterns, you also need to pay attention to the size of the pattern. Some years we'll see really enlarged patterns. So we'll see big florals and big polka dots and big stripes, when others, the trend is to repeat the pattern a bit more to get those smaller design and really fine lines instead of stripe and more discreet smaller flowers instead of those bigger prints. When it comes to textures and materials, these are things like velvet, metallic making a comeback, or materials like vegan leather or cork trending. And so it's important to notice here again that this doesn't mean that, for example, denim is ever out of fashion. Most textures, most material will always have their place in the design market, but some years you will see a material being used more so than it used to be. So for example, you hear about the denim comeback and suddenly everyone is using denim for wallets, for purse, for obviously clothes, but for a lot of different things as well, for pillow covers, and denim is really the trend of the season. Or some years it might be velvet or corduroy or leather. And beyond that, material trends are also influenced by larger societal trends. So for example, with the growing awareness of the environment and the role that we have in protecting it, we see more and more customers interested in alternative to leathers. So that's why you'll see vegan leather trending or cork instead of leather being used for things like wallets and purses. And we'll also see things like bamboo fabric instead of cotton, and all these different textures and materials. So it doesn't mean that suddenly you should only, use vegan leather instead of leather if you're making handbags, for example, but it could be an idea to add one element, one product in your collection that is offered as a vegan alternative, for example, for those customers who would prefer that option to real leather. Now, themes. What are themes? Themes are an even broader concept. So a theme could be things like the 90s revival, or jungle theme, or the hippie 70s making a comeback. And they can also reflect changes in society, and as I was just saying when we talked about textures and material, in buyers' expectations. So for example, you need to be aware of the growing demand for eco-friendly, sustainable products, or organic and natural ingredients and materials, because these aren't necessarily a design trend, but they need to be taken into account as you design your product so that you can offer the type of products that the customers are now looking for more and more. So themes aren't necessarily just something like the 90s revival or the jungle, but can also be influenced by new buyers' expectations. And finally, trend type number 5 is characters and animals. And I'll also put plants in there because they also can be trending. Sometimes you'll see that cactuses are everywhere and everyone seems to be obsessed with them, which means that maybe it's great if you do ceramics to start offering pots for smaller succulents and cacti. If you do prints and digital art, you might consider doing some with cactuses in them. If you are doing home decor, maybe we want to look at patterns with cactuses in it. And it's similar with any other type of flowers. Sometimes maybe pine cones are trending, or sunflowers, or roses, but also characters and animals like unicorns and parrots and llamas. I'm sure you've seen unicorns everywhere the last couple of years. They were definitely a big trend. Before that, we had the llamas. And it's, no one can really explain it. It's just that the market is suddenly really interested in buying products that have those characters and those animals on them. And again, if it doesn't work for your brand, definitely disregard it. But if you're creating, for example, digital art for kids' bedroom that you're selling online, well, it could be interesting to create a few products that reflect those trends in characters and animals. So now, how do we actually research trends? How do we know what's trending and what's not? And that's what we're going to be talking about next. And before we dive in, just a little reminder that research is, of course, very important when it comes to trend, but getting an understanding of trends is also something that you will build over time as you stay curious and pay attention to what's happening in your market and in your niche. So keep the trends that work for you, and I know I've said that a few times already in this training. Really look out for trends that you could incorporate to your design and that would work well with your brand, but don't go changing your style just to fit in. Now, in saying that, it is a fine line between disregarding a trend that we think is not working with our style and also making an effort to incorporate one that we as designers might not be completely in love with, but that we need to incorporate because the market is interested in it. And as a business owner, it's a different thing to create art and to create products just for the sake of it and just because we enjoy it and it's a hobby or a passion that we have, and doing it as a business. So always keep in mind, you can't go changing completely your brand values and your brand vision in terms of aesthetics, but it's also important to make a bit of an effort to really see, okay, could we incorporate this in our designs or in our production choices? You can also download your workbook that accompanies this training. In it, you will find all the links to the tools and websites that I'm about to share with you and to demonstrate to you, so you know where to go looking for trends. And there is also some room for you to take notes as you dive into the research process. So make sure to download that. And to start, the first tool, and I'm sorry about that because it is very obvious, but I need to get it out of the way, and it is honestly a simple search on Google. Now, I know it's a little bit like, well, thanks, Deb, that's a little bit obvious. So obviously I've got other tools coming up for you, but we can't not talk about Google because trends change all the time, and so Google is always the most up-to-date source of information when it comes to trends. So what you want to do is search for keywords like color trends, year, so you want to insert 2020, 2021 whenever you're watching this training, color trends winter 2020, pattern trends, and then insert the year wedding trends. You can also search per industry if you are looking for specific trend within your niche, so jewelry trend, wedding trends, home decor trends, and you're going to get a lot of information. So I'd recommend to always start there. Next up, we have Etsy Trends Forecast and Reports. Etsy creates those reports for us and those shopping guides, as they call it, for us based on the insight they have from having millions of people visiting their platform, searching into their search bar, and purchasing product every year. So they know what customers are generally looking for and what they're buying, and they share those with us via their shopping guides that are well worth taking a look at. And this is useful even if you do not sell on Etsy, as it's still great insights into what customers are generally going to be looking for. So even if you don't sell on Etsy, you don't plan to sell on Etsy, you sell on another platform or on your own website, if you sell handmade products, if you sell jewelry, if you sell gifts, if you sell home decor, anything handmade, it's really a great first step. So let's take a look together at what they offer. So on Etsy, the two most important part of the Etsy website that you want to take a look at when searching for trends and wanting to have a look around at what's trending and what's not and what's coming up next season, or what might be trending in your specific market and niche and for the specific type of products that you are selling, is the Etsy trend section of what they call the Etsy journal, which is essentially the Etsy blog. And this is all linked in your workbook, of course. And as you can see, they will do sum up of trends by type of products and by niche as well. So we have here jewelry, for example, we have wedding here, holiday decor here, and top gift trend. So if you are in the gift market, then this is definitely one that you would want to have a look at. And then most importantly, every year they also do a general article on the trend of the year, which here is called the top 2020 trends. So I really encourage you to look at what they have here, and depending on what you sell, obviously if you're more in the fashion clothing industry, you would want to look at that. If you are more in the handmade home decor market, you would want to have a look at, for example, this one. And also look up for those seasonal design trends like the summer trends that we see here or holiday decor that we see here. So I'm not going to dive into each of those with you, but I'll just pick one, which is the jewelry one, just to show you what they do for you. And so they really summarize what they see people being more interested in, searching for on the platform, and also purchasing more. So here we have birth flower, for example. And what I like is that they also give you ideas on what other shops are doing to integrate those trends in their design. So you can see here, this is two different shops with very different sense of aesthetics. And so it's a good idea to have a look at what other shops are doing, never to copy, of course, but to take inspiration from, to see how you could integrate that in your own design and in your own shop. So we have belly button rings, ear cuffs, which is really interesting if you sell jewelry, because you might not have thought about doing this yourself. You might even feel like not so sure this is going to sell a lot, but apparently it is, and it is really coming back. So ear cuffs are in grand millennial style, recycled metals, which is more of a texture material trend, animal accent, here again more of a texture and material trend, beaded earrings, again texture and material, feminine forms, which is a pure design or aesthetic trend. So really having a look around here and having a look at what other people are doing to see how you can navigate that trend and whether you want to take it on in your design or not. Now I also want to show you the more general top 2020 trends. So this is obviously when I'm recording this training, but they do this every year. So if you're in 2021 or in 2022 or any year after that, when you watch this, you will find the equivalent in their shopping guides section. And here they will summarize things like the color that they are seeing people really interested in, which is a green, and its different variation, and again examples of how it's being incorporated in different niches and with different products here. And then they will also give you trend on, for example, what they see across a different part of the market. So for example, in home decor, color blocking, in clothing, the 80s coming back, and then we have coordinated couples coats, pet pampering, bespoke beauty, and with all of those, they will also give you tips as to what they see happening on that platform in regards to all of their trends. So that's a really good first step to to take is to go to Etsy shopping guides and to take a look at what the editors have picked. The next tool I want to share with you is Pantone. Pantone sets the tone when it comes to color by announcing their color of the year every year. Pantone is really accepted in the entire world as the reference when it comes to color trends, color management, and designers, artists, brands. The entire world really waits for this information each year to design their products and collections, and you should too. So you don't need to use this one color of the year only, of course, but having a couple of items or patterns using this color is definitely a good idea. Now, at the time I'm recording this video in 2020, the color of the year is going to be different to the one that you might have when you watch this. Last year in 2019, the color of the year was Living Coral, for example. That has changed since then. So Pantone has a separate part on their website, an entire section called Color Intelligence that they obviously keep up to date with those color trends information and intelligence, and that sums up the color trends highlight. So I really recommend you take a look at this page that's linked in your workbook, because it will give you different trends and different recommendations so that you can pick what will work best within your brands and your aesthetics. Let's take a look. So here we are inside of the Pantone Color Intelligence Color of the Year page. Now, as I was just saying, when I'm recording this, it's 2020. So the color of this specific year is what they call the classic blue, which is this color here. Pantone is really the leader when it comes to color. As you can see here, for over 20 years, they've influenced product development and purchasing decisions in fashion, home furnishing, industrial design. And what the Color Institute does, so what this page here sums up for you, is really the highlight of the top seasonal runway colors, but also forecasting global color trends, and they advise companies on color for products and for brand visual identity. So they have a really great understanding of color psychology, of color in the market, and the use in different part of the market and different niches. And so not only it's important to keep in mind what the color of the year is, but to also have a look at the guides that they offer for sellers and for business owners. So you will see here under tools for designer, for example, a suggestion of resources that Pantone puts together every year for what they call designers, or for designers, so that's you. And so if you are, for example, selling fabrics or bags or clothing, you would want to have a look at how to use the classic blue, which is the color of the year in fashion. And they have that also for the beauty industry, the home decor industry, the graphic design and packaging industry. So really having a look at that and understanding how other people are integrating this color into their design to see if it can work for you. So it's really something worth taking a look at. Then they also have a palette exploration section here where you can see other color harmonies that they recommend with the classic blue. So that's interesting because for some of you, for example, this palette here might be too soft. It might not necessarily work for your brand, but it might work beautifully well for some of you. And this could be something that you could consider incorporating in a seasonal collection, for example. For others, you might want to incorporate the blue using much brighter color because it's more aligned with your brand. So it's interesting to see the different uses of this color and to take inspiration from this color palette section of their Color Intelligence website, because they really do the work of putting those color harmonies together for us. Moving away from colors now and into patterns, first let's take a look at pattern. We'll take a look at Pattern Bank and Pattern Curator. These are the two links that you'll find in your workbook as well. And what these websites do is they actually sell this information, this pattern trend intelligence, to designers. So they really are on top of it. They really know what they're talking about when they talk about pattern trends, because that's how they make a living, by forecasting those trends and selling patterns to designer. Now, you do not need to purchase their guides or to get a subscription with them unless you want to, but just looking around on their site and on their blog is already going to give you a lot of really great ideas as to what is trending when it comes to pattern this year. So let's take a look. So Pattern Curator really offers mood board curation. So as you can see here, you can see at a glance that we have different styles being curated, and you'll know straight away you probably already have your eyes on your favorite one here on the screen, the ones that are going to work well with your brand and the ones that aren't. And what I like here is that those mood boards are a combination of societal trends, but also textural trends. So you can see here denim. There are also theme trends. We can see the bohemian trend here, color trend, and each of the mood board would incorporate different colors and patterns as well, so that based on the general trend that the mood board reflects, you can understand how to incorporate those patterns and those themes and those colors in your designs. So for example, here if I look at the solar power mood board, we have inspiration in textures, in patterns, lots of flowers, lots of very nature inspired elements, and of course the color story here is very sun-like, so it's very orange, it's very yellow, but those very pushed yellow that almost go to the orange and browns, and you can see the full color palette here as well. So have a look around on this website. It's a great curation of mood boards for designers, and they do really brilliant job at selecting patterns that are going to be trending for different seasons as well. So for example, here we have for the spring summer 2020 Wild Botanical by Pattern Curator, and if I click on that, it will show you the type of patterns that are forecasted to be trending. So we have those really wide, large, bold floral prints, and of course here this is mostly in the fashion world, but it doesn't mean that this wouldn't be reflected in the home decor industry, for example, or even in the home decor industry, for example. So it's still worth taking a look even though you're not in high fashion necessarily. Then the second site I wanted to show you for patterns is Pattern Bank. Now Pattern Bank has a great blog that summarizes which pattern are going to be trending for which season of the year. So for example, here we've got Technicolor Tribe, very tie-dye inspired. Then we have, and then you can see a selection of patterns here that they recommend. We have Autumn Winter for 21-22, and they call it Nordic Nights. Autumn Winter, we have what they call decorative borders. And of course, for each of them, you can click the Explore the Trend story, and they will take you to a separate page where you'll learn more about that specific trend, the specific patterns, and color stories behind that trend, with inspiration and also a few different swatches of colors and patterns that mix well together for that specific trend. So again, most of those pictures are reflecting the high fashion industry, but this is because the high fashion industry has always been known as the industry that sets the trend and that sets the tone for the rest of the world in any other industry. So that's why these are being used here, but it doesn't mean again that it wouldn't reflect in any other market. The next thing I want to suggest you take a look at are bigger retailers' websites, because although you're not competing with the bigger retailers, their market and yours are driven by the same trends, and they usually have a trends or an inspiration section on their website that's often packed full of ideas. Here, for example, I'm going to show you with the Target website what we can learn from it. So this is the Target website, and I have put a link to this in your workbook. I also suggested that you do not stop simply at Target and have a look at other bigger retailers that might be selling in your area, in your region, in your country. But really, this is not about competing with Target. You offer bespoke designs, you offer handmade products, and so we are absolutely not comparing ourselves or wanting to compete with Target, but we do want to understand what generally is going on in the market, and they do have a trends section in under finds on Target Finds that does have some really good information about what is trending and what isn't. So see, for example, here we have summertime and the denim's easy. So obviously the denim being important this summer. So the summariest of color will be a selection of color trends for us. High-waisted shorts, if you're in fashion, this is something to keep in mind. And then textures and patterns here, we can see the animal print everything. So, that's a great example of a gift here, which is more of an accessory product. We have clothing here, we have jewelry here, so you can really interpret that in the way that you want in your own business. Peachy keen, which seems to be a favorite color for the sunnier days, so for the summer. And then we also have prints here with what they call terrazzo. They call it the ground up confetti. So this is, again, see when we talked about patterns and how sometimes the size is very important. This is obviously a very large, stretched out version of a confetti pattern that they call terrazzo. So you can go and click on any of those really to take a look at what they suggest. And so here you'll see, for example, that's the color palette for the summer. So really, really warm, bright colors. And then here I also opened the terrazzo print, and you can see it in home decor. So here we have, if for example you made ceramics, you could use it in that way. Clothing, accessories, gift market as well. So different users, even here, a shower curtain or a pajama. So various different application of the same pattern. Next on our list are digital magazines and publications. So publications like Elle or home decor magazines will often have a trends or an inspiration section on their website, and they do have to keep on top of trends because that is kind of what they sell in their magazines. So those sections are usually well worth your time, and let's take a look together by looking at the Elle website. So here we are on the Elle Decor website, which is the home decor subdivision of Elle magazine, and they have a trend section that's dedicated to talking about what's in and what's out in terms of trends. So there is a lot in there because they create new articles really regularly. So this is something I would actually recommend. You don't just look at once, but actually from time to time go back to all these resources that I'm sharing with you now, including this one, to see what's been updated and to really stay curious as to what is trending and what isn't. So you will see, for example, here we have chic boho already. That's probably a really good keyword when it comes to SEO, which is not quite the topic of this training, but this is something to keep in mind when you look at trends too. It's not just what should my products look like, but also what are people typing and looking for. And so chic boho is obviously a keyword that people would be using here. We have the design trends that are in and out in 2020. Kitchen trends, how to bring fashion's biggest trend into your home. And so here, it's really interesting if, for example, you felt really inspired by things that you've seen on, say, Pattern Curator, but you were wondering how to incorporate it into the home accessories market because that's what you're selling. This would be really interesting for you to read. Here we have the top 9 trends from High Point Markets, Etsy's home decor trends, Easter design trends. So this is obviously better suited to you if you are in the home decor industry and if you're selling home decor gifts and home decor accessories and products. But it really is important to keep your mind open when you do this research on trends, because trends are very flexible, and as we just saw even here, you can easily go from fashion to home decor or from home decor to fashion. So really keeping an open mind here, but also taking the time to maybe look for other big publication. Think about the magazines that are really setting trends and setting the tone in the industry that you're selling, and go to that digital version, their blog online, to see the type of articles that they have there, because this could be better suited to your specific niche. But keep an open mind and don't be afraid to look outside of the box and outside of the specific type of products that you are creating to look for design inspiration. And finally, a few last suggestions that might be really useful to you, especially if you're selling stationery, paper goods, or any type of arts, prints, digital arts. These two you're probably going to love even more than the ones I've already shown you. And these are stationery trends and Creative Market blog. Let's take a look. So this is the Creative Market blog. Now, Creative Market is a website that sells photos, graphics, fonts, any kind of graphic elements that you might need, designed by professional graphic designers around the world, and that you can buy the rights to. So you could buy a font, you could buy templates for social medias. There's really a lot going on Creative Market. It's a great source of inspiration in itself. But most importantly, and that's what I linked in your workbook for you, they have a blog with a full section dedicated to trends and what they see as being trending in the design industry. So you can see here we have space opera, for example, Mexican muralism, the color of the season, peach gelato, which, as you can see here, we've already seen that on the Target website where the peachy color was highlighted. So definitely something to consider for this specific season. And so if you click on each of those, they will of course give you more information on the story behind this trend. So the history in this case of space opera, and really give you different examples of what it means in different styles. So you can see that it doesn't mean that you have to necessarily have this cartoony look to your designs. You could incorporate it in your own style in your products, and they give you a lot of different inspiration examples for that. Here we have Mexican muralism, and so they do the same thing with a short history of the trend and where and how it came to be and why it's back as something that's trending now, and how to use it in your own products if that is something that you want to do. And then the last example I had open here was the color of the season, peach gelato, and again with a lot of different inspiration for how to use it in your products. Now the examples that they use are often more, as I was saying, for graphic designer, people who work with paper goods and stationery products in the gift industry, or prints and digital arts or downloadable that people could buy and print and put on their walls. If that is you and that is something that you're interested in, or that is what you are selling, I really think that this blog from Creative Market, this section of the blog, is going to be really helpful because those examples are going to speak to you even more. And look at what I found here again. Terrazzo here, which we saw on the Elle website, has also been designed and turned into graphics. So the good thing with Creative Market as well is that you can see the trends, and then you can also purchase those patterns and those graphics if you wanted to incorporate them in your brand. So you will need to purchase a commercial or an extended commercial license. So you will need to really take a look at what the license type you need is, but it's really it's a really nice source of files where you to actually go on and implement what you've learned. So if you've learned that terrazzo in this case is something that is trending and that would work for your brand, Creative Market will most likely have files that you can use in your own design, that you can print on your fabric if that's what you want to do, or that you can use on your graphics and social media to really reflect those trends. And then the last one I wanted to show you was Stationery Trends. Now, Stationery Trends is a magazine that you can subscribe to, but you don't have to, because their blog has also a great collection and curation of trends inside. So if you go to the trends section here, you'll see the selection of articles that they have regarding trends and what's in and what's not. And each time you click on one of them, you will have a few different sources of inspiration. So they show you different ways to use that trend and different products and brands that are already using it. So for example, here we have taco, which is part of what I was calling characters. Of course, taco is not a person, nor an animal or a plant, but it really falls under that category of trend. I was saying, we have color, we have patterns, we have textures, we have themes, and we have characters. And in this case, it seems like tacos are trending, and that this is something that people like to incorporate in their design in different ways. And so you can see here how it's been done by different brands on stationery and home decor products and gifts, essentially. So again, maybe it wouldn't work for your brand to necessarily work with that type of illustration, but if you are selling, for example, cards with funny, joyful messages, and that's kind of what your brand is all about, this could be something that's easy to incorporate and that people are obviously looking for and searching for when they're purchasing products at the moment. Thank you so much for being with me during this training. I hope it gave you at least a bunch of inspiration that you can tap into when you're thinking about your design, your collection, and seasonality when creating products. I really strongly encourage you to always be curious and to keep on top of these rather than just, once every year doing a big research, to really kind of bookmark a few of those websites that you found useful and to come back to them from time to time to keep on top of trends. And also don't hesitate to add to your list other websites, other magazines, other curation tools that you might have found during your own research and that you think are really well suited to your specific market and products, because that's what's most important. And I wish you all the best with your handmade business.